us now, one of the Republicans working on that plan, Senator Todd Young of Indiana.
Senator, thanks so much for being with us. We talk about, fear and loathing, no bipartisanship, et cetera, et cetera. What are we going to do? But you've already, and Chuck Schumer, you guys already have given us a pretty good blueprint about how to pass significant bipartisan legislation. You did it a couple of weeks ago, and of course, there weren't the big headlines about that. But let's talk about it. I wanted you to come on to talk about that, and we'll talk about infrastructure too. But what you did regarding China, pretty significant.
Well, I do think it provides a model for a lot of legislation, whether it's our bipartisan infrastructure talks, which continue, or additional national security legislation, which is what the Endless Frontier Act was, working with Senator Schumer and other Democrats and Republicans. Look, if there's one issue that clearly unifies Republicans and Democrats and everyone in between, it's the need to crack down on China's predatory economic practices. They've been stealing our intellectual property, and they've been dumping goods into this country, and that hurts rank-and-file Americans. So we decided to choose one of those issues, cracking down on those sorts of practices, investing in 21st century technologies in a really bold fashion, and preparing our workers to land those 21st century jobs that pay really well into the future. And, it required a year and a half of staff work, of consultation, of trust building, but we got it done. 68 to 32, it passed out of the Senate.
And when we talked about this, you brought up, and it made a lot of sense to me, you brought up the comparison with how the United States responded to Sputnik.
That's right. That's right. Post-Cold War, it was pretty clear that we faced an existential moment with the challenge that the Soviet Union presented. So we decided to use that moment, not just to defeat the Soviet Union. That wasn't really our paradigm. Instead, our paradigm was, let's use this as an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves. Let's invest in ourselves. Let's invest in our people. Let's invest in our scientific enterprise. Let's stand up NASA, and let's outgrow, out-innovate, and out-compete the Soviet Union. That's exactly what we decided to do with China.
It wasn't about just getting to the moon. It wasn't about, beating the Soviets. It was like you said. Because a lot of times, I'll say I'm a conservative, small government conservative. I've always been reluctant to get the federal government involved in private enterprise. But you look back at what happened post-Sputnik, and our government helped inspire, helped create a generation of scientists, engineers, people who not only helped NASA, but helped everything. The world changed radically after that.
We stood up NASA, as you indicated. Right. We established and invested in a highway system, an interstate highway system through President Eisenhower and bipartisan leadership. All of these sorts of initiatives were designed to ensure that we grew at a more rapid rate. We used those resources to build the most powerful military in the world. And then ultimately, over a period of years of strategic patience and bipartisan cooperation, we got things done, ultimately defeating the Soviet Union. So I think that's a model that we can harness. We should not let our many principled disagreements, and they exist, obscure our many areas of agreement. And that's what both Senator Schumer and I did as we negotiated this legislation. And I think that's a model for infrastructure and other issues.
So let's talk about infrastructure.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an exciting move. Republicans and Democrats working. I mean, because I wasn't, I know this will shock you, I wasn't like a team player when it came to leadership. So I always love when things happen.
I was aware.
I love when things happen organically and members just say, members to members, so you know what? If the leadership can't get it done, let's get it done ourselves.
Well, look, Joe, I mean, I'm sorry, Mika.
No, go ahead.
So look, I'm a Marine. I know how to brawl too, and I got some scars to show it, right? And there are times for that. But you lose a measure of credibility if all you do is brawl. So you've got to identify those opportunities, and there are many, to help one another get a bill done that serves all our constituents. Infrastructure is a great issue. So there have been 10 Republicans working with 10 Democrats. I think you just showed their faces on your screen. We immodestly call ourselves the G20.
All right,
I mean, this is the United States Senate, right?
Okay, and so it's a $1 trillion bill you're looking at, and how will it get paid for, and is that the problem?
We Republicans like to emphasize it's just less than $1 trillion, but nonetheless. Nonetheless.
Is that the issue, paying for it?
It's really not, actually.
Okay.
It's not within this group of 20 Republicans and Democrats. In fact, we've come together and identified pay-fors, areas of common agreement, repurposing some unneeded COVID funds, revolving funds, which is the kind of stuff we've always used to pay for infrastructure, some public-private partnerships. All this stuff has proven to work, and we figured out how to add it all up to $1 trillion and pay for this thing without increasing taxes. We can have the tax conversation later if others want to, but we don't believe you have to pay for our essential core infrastructure with raising taxes.
Mike Barnicle's next. Mike.
Senator, it was good to hear you recite some of our history of bipartisanship. And on this day in 1944, President Roosevelt signed the GI Bill, which passed Congress with big bipartisan majorities. And then the National Highway Act that you just mentioned. And, of course, when Yuri Gagarin was the first Russian astronaut to appear in space, we got over that very quickly, and we were the first on the moon. So in terms of infrastructure today, in bipartisanship, I get the sense that your number is just a little slightly less than $1 trillion. So my question to you is, I understand the concept of we can't afford to go more than $1 trillion. Some Republicans are saying that. My question to you is, what about the fact that we can't afford not to really go over $1 trillion and really repair? I mean, potholes have no partisanship.
No, it's a great question. So I do think we have to invest what is necessary in order to grow our economy at a more rapid rate. So the way I think about our national debt is if someone buys a $10 million house and they tell you that, in the abstract, it's very difficult to decide whether that's a responsible or irresponsible investment until you know what their assets are and what their annual income is and so forth. So if we can grow our economy at a more rapid rate by making targeted investments like in workforce development, which incidentally the Endless Frontier Act does invest in 21st century job and talent preparation, then we grow the economy at a more rapid rate. So I think as we make that call, and I'm not going to negotiate here on television, you'll understand, but as we make that call, we got to figure out whether any additional investments will actually cause our economy to grow at a more rapid rate and bring in more revenue for the federal government.
Michael.
Yes, we started the conversation talking about the bipartisan work that you did and you led on with the China bill and getting 68 senators on board. What's the secret sauce here on infrastructure? What is it that needs to happen inside that chamber to get Republicans? You've got 20 of you.
Yeah.
How do you get everybody to understand exactly what this moment means?
Here's what it takes, and we're 4/5 of the way there. Okay, it takes development of trust over a period of time. We've done that through the so-called G20 group. It takes a willingness to compromise. We've done that. None of us thinks this is a perfect framework, but we like where we've ended up. And the last thing it takes is presidential leadership. And in the case of the Endless Frontier Act, the president decided to stay silent, which was helpful as we worked on this legislation, because frankly, we had just been through a $1.9 trillion issue that created some consternation and upset on the Republican side. So it was helpful that he was silent. He needs to lean into this package, this bipartisan framework that we've got. He needs to bless it, and he needs to encourage fellow Democrats to support it. So if he does that, I believe it's going to pass. And both the House and the Senate, the American people will have their infrastructure without an increase in taxes.
So that helps overcome the filibuster issue?
We can talk about that later.
So Michael and I, former politicians, but like former Marines, you're never a former Marine. You're a Marine, right? You're still a politician. So let's do a little bit of work for you. We need to get. We're gonna get a VW bus, and we're gonna see the country this summer, Michael. You and me, right?
We
want to go to Indiana. Tell me where we need to go in Indiana this summer? Where are some great places to go to in Indiana?
You should go to French Lick, Indiana. French Lick, Indiana is a historic old hotel there. Got a couple of great golf courses if you want to bring your golf bags. It's a world-class resort, and word needs to get out. So go to French Lick, Indiana. Go to Indianapolis and see our incredible racing scene that we have there. We are the world's racing capital.
Yep.
And go to the most recent national park, which is in northern Indiana, right there in Lake Michigan up north. It's a beautiful place. It shows that nature and heavy industry can coexist. So those are a few hot spots.
I hope in French Lick they have a statue of Larry Bird somewhere.
They do. They do.
Okay, Senator Todd Young. But weird questions just keep coming.
No,
We're doing
You're
business.
okay.
that's all right. And if they don't, we're going to erect one just so that I'm correct.
Exactly. So a great resort in French Lick.
I'm there.
There you
Thank you
go.
for coming on the
There you
show.
go.
Nice to see you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Up
Thanks.
next.